With the Judgment games finally being ported over to the PC, I, alongside many Yakuza fans, got to experience this game for the first time. These games have gotten a lot of praise throughout the years from both the hardcore Yakuza fans and newcomers to the series. I wasn't disappointed with the game. In fact, I think it's great, and I'm clearly not the only one who thinks this way. This can be seen with the overwhelmingly positive reviews this game has on Steam. But what about those who disagree? Who was disappointed by this game so much to the point that they would go out of their way to write a negative review about it? Just what is it about this game that they dislike, or even hate? That's when I decided to look at all the negative Judgment reviews so you don't have to. But before we get into the video, I'd just like for you to hear a word from today's sponsor, my employer. I wrote the entire script for the video during company hours. Please don't tell them. Judgment is about Light Yagami, a former judge man turned detective with the goal to catch a judge eye stealer, a murderer who takes the eyes from those that judge men. What the hell is this review talking about? These are the 3 most popular negative reviews for Judgment. De Nouveau. For those that don't know, De Nouveau is an anti-piracy measure put into games, which basically means that Sega and RGG Studios, developers and publishers of the game, don't want people to steal their games. This doesn't seem bad at first, but the thing is that you need internet connection to play your games, even if they are purely single player. Because of this, De Nouveau has a very bad stigma, and with game releases like Sonic Mania and Resident Evil Village, it doesn't help the case either. For Sonic Mania, the PC port got released late because Sega decided to put in De Nouveau last second, without the original developer's knowledge. And in the case for Resident Evil, the game ran very poorly, to the point where it didn't make sense to buy the game, and for users to pirate it, because De Nouveau killed the performance. I would have preferred English names instead of Japanese names when the game was dubbed, because the Japanese names are so difficult for me to remember. This is a fair point. When I first started to watch anime and play JRPGs, I had the same problem with remembering names. With the Yakuza franchise getting worldwide recognition lately, it might make some sense to do this kind of thing, but in my opinion, I think that one of Yakuza's biggest and most appealing factors is that these games take place in Japan, and giving these characters English names might take some people out of their immersion. No karaoke! No karaoke! No karaoke! A symbol of the Yakuza franchise isn't present in these games, which is a bit of a shame really. It would be epic to see Yagami killed on the stage, but there is a reason why karaoke wasn't included. For those that don't know, Yagami is played by Takuya Kimura, who was in one of the biggest Japanese rock bands of all time, and the agency company that manages him most likely asked for a lot of money for his karaoke feature, money which developers didn't have. The game's controls are not responsive half the time, and there's zero consistency to how they work. You're not playing as Kiryu, so it makes sense that Yagami would control differently, right? The combat took a while for me to get used to, but with some upgrades and more familiarity, it quickly became one of the most fun Yakuza games I have played yet. Jumping off the walls and sliding into enemies has to be some of the most fun and rewarding things to do in this game for me. I would hold off on buying this until some more performance patches are released. Slowdowns, lockups, and crashes occur quite often, and I don't think the game is good enough to make up for that. Wait about a month or so and then buy. You could also get the game on sale if that occurs beforehand. This game has a black screen when it is played, and there is a bug that the game does not play. Then you wait for a while, then the game turns off with an error. I hope this bug gets fixed quickly. I really want to play the game. With this being a freshly released PC port, some people had problems running the game. Judgmenting by the hours they have now though, the new patches seem to fix the problems for them. I'll be completely honest, I haven't progressed very far into the game. However, this game just isn't as fun as any other Yakuza game. Kamurocho is glorious. Furthermore, it's nice to be able to parkour around a town, and take some of the small shortcuts into side alleys that we've never been able to see before. Whenever I played a new game, it was always one of the top things for me to figure out. What has changed this time around? And for the most part, it hasn't disappointed me. Tailing is probably the worst game mechanic I've ever experienced in this universe. It seems pointless, slow, and it's just plain horrible. Some of the few things I welcome in this game are some of the new minigames. The more nimble character, with him actually being slim enough to go through narrow paths, and the removal of weapons and gear, but sadly that's about all the positives I can come up with at this point. I thought I disliked the new direction of Like a Dragon, but honestly I hope the spin-off dies. The sooner the better. You know what? I somewhat agree with most of these points in this review that I've read out, except for the one where this game should die, but whatever. Kamurocho is at its most beautiful when walking in the streets, and it is grit and dirt in the more hidden paths, like the side alleys and the sewer system. Kamurocho just feels a lot more lived in than ever before. Regarding the tail missions, yeah, they're just auto-scrollers. Except that when the target sees you, they just stand around looking like a doofus for what feels like an eternity. I plan to 100% this game, and I can already tell I'm going to have to do these tailing missions a lot. I'm honestly looking forward to Mahjong more than the tailing missions. And that's about it for the Steam reviews. With the game being out on Steam for only 3 weeks at the point of writing, there weren't a lot of negative reviews to even talk about. There are so little reviews that there weren't any buy this masterpiece type of reviews. That's how fresh and new this port is. So let's just take a look at a few of the other sites. GameFAQs always has some sort of interesting conversation. Let's check it out there. I've identified a deal breaker. Need confirmation that you can switch old boy out of the skinny jeans. I'm sorry, it's a guy. There should be no guys wearing skinny jeans. Wear shorts, wear slacks, wear track pants that aren't skinny. Or whatever, I don't care. Not skinny jeans. Can you confirm you can change outfits? You can change costumes and disguises for some missions, but I don't think you can change them permanently. If you can bring yourself to tolerate the jeans, then the story is one of the best of the Yakuza games. It is worth playing. I'm in my 40s. I'll not be watching some guy's ass in skinny jeans running around just to play the game. I refuse to do that. Especially since Like a Dragon had the main character wearing a suit, which is more appropriate in a Yakuza game in my mind. If it was a female protag, I wouldn't care. Right. I don't think GameFAQs is the right place for this. Oh, I know. Best Buy. That's it? Come on, man. Okay, right, whatever. Metacritic for sure will have some reviews. The minigames are horrible, the graphics do not make me happy, and the sound does not have Dolby Atmos. Yeah, you're right, man. These graphics make me depressed. For this review, there's clearly a language barrier here, but I just found the wording of this funny. I don't really know what they mean by Dolby Atmos sounds. Isn't that just like the name of the company? Great story until you figure it out before the characters do. And when you're supplied with choices, the most obvious and correct ones are often omitted, which leaves your detective character feeling a bit slow and dumb, waiting for someone else to figure it out and explain it to you. The combat is super clunky like the rest of the Yakuza games. The story in the Yakuza games are always very soap opera-esque, and Judgment isn't really an exception. Without going into any spoilers here, these games just never had some sort of deep and convoluted plot, and it doesn't really need to. The characters are what carry the story, in my opinion, rather than the story itself. From these negative reviews, I get the impression that these people don't like Judgment due to the way Yagami controls, and the different gameplay elements he has to offer. Specifically the tailing and drone gameplay coming to mind for these players. With the removal of the cult classics minigame, karaoke, I can see why it leaves a bitter taste. The story can feel a bit predictable at times, which can give off a feeling that the game is padded out just to make the story length a few hours longer than it should be. The other Yakuza games aren't an exception to this, and I feel that all other Yakuza games feel like this to me in some sort of way. That is, if you just rush through these games and only play the story. Thankfully, all the Yakuza games and Judgment offer lots of side content to do, so you can take your mind off the story for a little bit. Yagami controls are very different from what you may be used to in a Yakuza game, but please, give yourself some time to get used to how he controls. With some ability upgrades, the game can get really fun and rewarding, with things like jumping off of walls and doing massive damage. And if you're worried about not being able to perform the game, or it crashing constantly, then you can just wait a few weeks for patches. Patches 1.01 and 1.02 have already come out as of the writing of this script, and there will most likely be more to come as more and more bugs are found. I personally have had no issues with this game in regards to performance or glitches, besides the usual Dragon Engine shenanigans of course. Editor's note: since playing, I've had this weird cutscene glitch happen. And this other one where the lighting was very weird, but that's really the only weird things I have encountered so far. If you enjoyed the video, then make sure to leave a like. I want to make more content about Judgment in the future, so be sure to subscribe if you want to see that. On the left, you'll have my most recent upload, whatever that may be, and on the right, you will see me looking at negative reviews for Yakuza 0. Thanks for watching, and cheers. お茶をどうぞ。